Tell us how we're breathing now and how you recommend we breathe.
So a lot of us have resistance in our airways. So you don't have to suffer from diagnosed snoring or sleep apnea or asthma to still be suffering from inadequate breathing. We breathe about 20,000 to 25,000 times a day. That's on the upper end. And if you're doing that just a little off, your body is going to suffer. It's just imagine taking 10,000 steps and having your ankle slightly off or a toe that hurts, how the rest of the body compensates and suffers from that. So, this is something that a lot of researchers have been studying for decades and decades, but it's mostly been locked in academic journals and not been able to really get out to the general public. So the first thing to do is to become aware of your breathing and to become aware that the vast majority of us are breathing inadequately. Then you can take various steps to improve that. And that's really what the book was about. I didn't want to dwell on this negative bummer stuff the whole time. I wanted to address the problem and say there is a serious problem at epidemic levels right now with our breathing that is causing so many other issues that we really need to get a hold of this or we're never ever going to be healthy.
Tell us how we're breathing incorrectly, though. I mean, my understanding is that we don't breathe enough through our nose, and we're breathing a lot through our mouth. Is one of them. You bring up many different ways that we don't breathe correctly, but that seems to be a big one.
We're breathing too much. We're breathing too often. We're breathing through our mouths. Our breathing is becoming completely stressed and reflecting our mental state, which creates this sort of closed circuit of stress in our bodies. Oftentimes, people can hold their breath when they're extremely stressed at work. It's called email apnea, which is extremely injurious. So there's many different ways that we are breathing improperly. We have a lot of resistance in our airways because of that too small of a mouth as well. Mm-hmm. So the way to get around that is to take it sequentially. That's a lot. That's a real mouthful, right? No pun intended. To get your head around, but it's to take it step by step, and that starts with breathing through your nose and breathing through your nose all the time. The nose and the mouth are two very different passageways for air to filter through, and our body is able to digest this air in very different ways. So nasal breathing is far superior.
Yeah. Can you help us understand physiologically what was happening and changing in my body when Jean-Paul stopped next to me for a couple moments in the car and got me deep belly breathing? I know, from your book that, there's different hormones, there's different chemical releases. There's a lot of things happening biologically, physiologically, when you start breathing correctly. What were the changes that were happening in my body to calm me down? And obviously I was able to then bring in more oxygen to my working muscles and get back up with the leaders of the race.
So this is something that happens so often, and it doesn't matter if you're sitting in front of a desk answering email or if you're out running or if you're out competing, is we start to lose focus of our breathing. So I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what training he was having you do. I don't know if he was having you breathe more because you were holding your breath, or he was having you breathe less. But I know the end result of that was he was getting you to breathe in line with your metabolic needs. And this can be a tricky thing to suss out, but if we over breathe, we are causing our bodies all this extra stress to work extra hard to get less air. And this is so counterintuitive. It took me months to get my head around this. But when we breathe into our chests here and we take just a ton of short breaths, what we're doing, excuse me, is we're just taking air into our airways and other passages that do not participate in gas exchange. So only the lungs can absorb oxygen. And when you breathe that quickly, shallowly, you're just taking air into your throat, into your mouth, into the bronchus up here, none of which participates in gas exchange. So you're literally taking that breath in to push it back out, and you're not using any of that breath. So this causes the heart to speed up because you're stimulating the sympathetic side of your nervous system. And it causes you to work so much harder just to get a breath of air. If you are breathing more deeply, you can take fewer breaths and get way more oxygen. So what he was having you do, I believe, even though, as I said, I wasn't there, is having you take these deep breaths to get more oxygen, to allow more oxygen to get into your bloodstream to deliver all of that O2 to your hungry cells. And this is something, again, that a lot of athletes aren't paying attention to, which is crazy because the whole point of being an athlete is to work at peak efficiency so you can go further and faster than your opponent. And breathing is what's going to be able to allow you to do that.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info. And you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.